I just want to get into the competitive mode. Like, even now with the cooperative game that we just did, I was like, Jesse did a tad better than me.
So much better.
And I don't like it. I don't like cooperative games, and we know this about me.
You are not the target audience for this game.
No, I'm not a target audience for
Sounds like none of us.
Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co.
I'm Shira from Quackalope.
I'm Jesse Anderson from Quackalope. This is weird. We haven't done this introduction in a while.
It's been a while.
You see, we had this thing where Sender hated the look of my studio, and then I begged him to spend more time with me, and now... Look at the nice, shiny studio.
I still hate the look.
I had to acknowledge that, like, you're filming in a new location.
I like being in my space.
You like consistency.
I'm not going to have B-roll. I have to have some production values. In any case, this is Viticulture World. This is the newest expansion. It feels like a full game. We've said that every time we've talked about it.
It should not arguably be an expansion, except for the fact that lots of people will not want to buy the same components over again, and so, expansion!
Yeah, you do need regular viticulture to play this game. This is an expansion that effectively makes viticulture a cooperative experience. It adds a few new things. I'm going to move this box over your way. It adds a few new things as well, past just being cooperative. General idea is you want to all get 25 points, as well as the fact that you're going to want to make this little guy go all the way up to the top of the track, and then there's a few other aspects that make the game different. You're going to have events, a series of events that come out every single round, and that's where the world aspect is going to come into play, because you're going to have all these different regions you can play around with, each with their own cycle of events, and often bringing their own little unique spin to the way the game plays. Past that, you're going to have a whole bunch of upgradable locations from both the main primary locations that you're going to upgrade, as well as how you place your workers out, giving you greater freedom. We're not heavily going to go into all of that. If you want to find out more about that stuff, go to this guy's channel where we have a full gameplay of this, and I believe you said you're diving into it solo as well?
I plan to do a solo gameplay on the channel as well.
Gameplay as well. So yeah, if you want more information on how the game plays with some more details and seeing some stuff in action, you can check that out. For the most part, it's viticulture, but you're working together now. There are some small changes to the gameplay, and there are unique events depending on what you chose.
Well, and in relation to the events, one thing that I think some people will care about is that all these events are going to be regionally based around the world. That's why it's called Viticulture World. And that world context is going to try to be as both sensitive and accurate as possible, giving you context around explorers that might be in an area like South America where we were just playing, regional developments in Africa or Asia's different wine trade. It tries to touch on how each of these regions interacted, both through flavor text and mechanics, with the world of wine and winemaking, and at the same time trying to be culturally sensitive too. For instance, the one we played, it acknowledged that it condemned the actions of the conquistadors, even though they were influential in wine. Or the fact that we have mothers and fathers that can now be paired together instead of separate.
Yes.
So it moves into a lot of areas that I think some people were looking for when it comes to viticulture.
Yeah. Past that, anything else worth hitting on before we just start talking about our perspective on these games?
The big thing that I think is interesting about this is that your board system, this is integratable with the other expansions for one, which I think is interesting and unique. The board can flip. Most aspects. Being able to build these extra cellars here, the board can flip so you do or don't have those. Being able to mix in different cards like we played with the Moors expansion, the little card pack, instead of the standard decks of cards. All of that mixes in, and there's a little substitute of a few cards that just don't work.
The aspects that won't really be integratable is you won't have the specialized workers from the Tuscany expansion. You won't have the little stars map over there, the Maz and Paz.
The bigger workers, these people.
Those are the specialized workers. You won't have the little star map on the side, and you won't have 4 different seasons. You're just going to have pure summer and winter. I mean, there's other seasons, but summer and winter for worker placement.
But the thing I was getting to, the thing that I actually think is very interesting about this is it's the same familiar system that you know when it comes to worker placement across 2 different seasons. The same set of cards that you're used to working your way through, so there's not a big learning curve when it comes to those, and the same integration on the board. The puzzle you're solving, while different because it's cooperative, is the same because it's still viticulture.
Yeah, that learning curve is worth touching upon. If you're teaching this game to someone who knows viticulture, you're talking 5 minutes of rules and then the occasional question that might pop up. It's fairly easy to get people up and running once they know the viticulture system, which lowers the barrier to entry significantly. And each of those modules that you play with each of those world locations adds another 2 minutes of rules. Nothing overly intense, but still giving you enough to mix up the experience. And also replay value. You're going to have this aspect where some of the locations or the places you go through, the first time you go through it, the game recommends you go through it in order to get that kind of narrative journey. But then after that, you want to shuffle them up and go through them because, for instance, the one we just played on your channel in that video, there's 8 cards and you're only going to see 6 of them, which means you're going to have to go through that shuffling aspect at some point if you want to experience all the stuff that the game wants to show you.
And the order they come out, I think, definitely impacts
very much so
the variability and the difficulty of the game.
I think while it does feel super familiar, the way that you're actually trying to organize your board and work with your teammates changes it so differently, because you are extremely focused on points versus in regular viticulture, you're actually just trying to beat your other players. So you focus on what they're doing a little bit to see how well they're going, but then you don't have to get to a certain benchmark. Here, you are all three of your, or however many players you're playing with, all have to cross a certain benchmark. And so you're really maximizing your point engines as much as possible. And it made me think about my board in a different way of how to make that engine work.
Which I think is a good time to start drifting into opinions, drifting into reviews, thoughts, opinions, better, worse, all those different aspects. And I think I'm going to start with what you just touched upon, which is, for me, Viticulture World felt a lot more clinical and a lot less just doing my thing, for better or for worse, and you might experience that in different ways, but I felt that it really came down to, it wasn't like I was building a vineyard, it felt like I was counting every little nuanced anything.
You literally didn't build a vineyard.
Well, that's true, I didn't build a vineyard. I did in prior games of Viticulture World, but like it feels a lot more clinical in the way you approach it, and a lot more arguably efficient. I likely had a better, more efficient game every time I played World, because you have to get those 25 points in 6 rounds, as opposed to in general games, I just have to beat Jesse.
But jumping off of that, I didn't feel creative or innovative or cool at all with what I was doing. I felt like it was a huge crunch to get the points I needed, but I actually couldn't go through with what I wanted to do on my board, which was making a really nice vineyard. I like to go the typical vineyard way. They like to break the game.
I like to build vineyards normally.
I like to build vineyards, and I like to make wine, and I like to have the best wine and make all these cool concoctions, and the round limitation also severely impacted that.
I want to set the foundation of, I own everything for viticulture. I own everything deluxified. I mean, inserts, meeples that are screen printed, wine bottles for tracking, metal coins. This is not a game that I'm skeptical of. Viticulture for me...
He even took up drinking.
I did. I took up drinking. Viticulture for me is a 5 out of 5. Viticulture World, and we'll get into that, changes one of the things that I love the most about viticulture, which you both are hitting on. This 6-round track makes this now an economy game. You're playing against a greater loss condition, which does make it cooperative, but the thing I love about viticulture is my pace does not have to escalate until your pace does.
Correct.
And I love being able to sit around the table and watch as we all get flourishing wines and ask the question, when are you trading that for points?
Yes.
Because I need to be there with you.
Yeah.
But until you're there, I get to do stuff. I get to build an orchard. I get to invest in my field. I get to sell a plot of land and then rebuy it possibly. And there's so much love, and I like the word you described, Shira, creativity, in the way that I play viticulture. That feels good.
Like, I couldn't go through most of those decks and find the buildings that would have suited my thing the best. I had to maximize my meeple placement every single turn. If I can switch into stuff that I don't like about Viticulture World for a minute.
What has this been?
I guess.
Wait, what is this?
I don't know.
What is happening in the last 2 minutes?
No, let's switch it. Let's switch over.
It again. More pointed. I wish the rounds were a little longer. I think it's a tad short for what I like. I wanted more meeples, or to counteract it, I would have liked more meeples. It felt a little restrictive with those two components put together. For context, you have a total of 4 meeples, 2 can go in summer, 2 can go in winter, and then you have 1 grande meeple. And so...
Yeah, and I'm on record on a video saying that one of the mechanics I don't like in games is a fixed number of rounds, despite the fact that some games have that and I still like them, but it's despite that. And the reason is exactly what we're talking about here, this economic crunch. And again, we definitely played more efficiently, which you can argue just means we're playing viticulture worse than we should be, and that's why we like viticulture. But when you throw 6 rounds into a game, suddenly every action is, okay, great, if I pay $4 to train my work and I use them 3 times here, will the return be worth it? There's not freedom, there's not creativity, there's not a journey, there's purely a mathematical game that comes down to a very precise can we make it or not. And one of the nice things, by the way, is for a cooperative game, this seems to be very well balanced around just how rigid and tight that game is, but it also means you have to be efficient with every single move. Every single point counts. Every aspect of what you do is a number crunch.
Can I get into my favorite part of the review?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was also going to be...
Oh, I have good things. have good things.
No, timestamp here.
Sure.
Jesse's favorite part of the review.
Jesse's favorite part of the review.
I'm going to be working on a video over on my own channel, which is going to be titled something along the lines of, I'm going to give this another, I'm going to give it some more swings. Sure. I need to dive in solo to, really test my methodology. But I believe that this game stops being viticulture in the sense that it is not it is no longer about building efficient fields that convert to points, because the nature of being unable to spend to spend free actions, to dig for cards that you're going to be able to trade in for vineyards, to find the vines that you're able to plant, to maximize how you're creating grapes. You have to be so efficient and rigid that the easiest way to win every game I've played so far, the most straightforward path to victory, has been something that I like doing in original viticulture on its own, but am rarely successful with, which is mortgage the farm, get an economy flowing, get money into the game, buy tiles to upgrade, and immediately start converting every action you take to points. It is the most unloving version of viticulture, because all you're doing is a very mathematical trade.
Yeah.
But I think this game is very challenging if you play viticulture. I think the game is much less challenging if you play Mortgage the Farm.
When I heard that they were making viticulture into a cooperative experience, I was wondering what the end game or what you would have to accomplish was going to be. And I felt reaching a certain benchmark of points felt very anti-thematic, anticlimactic. I know in another game that is cooperative, Ares Expedition, with their expansion, the world ends.
Ares.
Like, stuff happens, you feel it's very thematic. This, I didn't feel like our farm would go bust or we would go into bankruptcy. It was, you gotta cross the threshold for points.
Two of us sold our farms, and we had an easier game than you did. We had to help you.
I struggled a lot, and I had 2 working fields, and I was making wine, like,
but
by
you
the
didn't
second
have
round.
what you needed to dig for
yeah,
resources.
To be fair, one thing you touched upon this in our game is because we both went with the selling the farms
all the
mechanism,
actions that I needed to take were never upgraded. Like, some of these actions would have been so much more efficient
we
had
didn't really
they been
help her.
upgraded.
We're like, we're not building a farm. What are you doing here?
Until the end, when they realized they couldn't win the game
But I
unless
don't
I
think
crossed
the
that point
pathway
threshold
to
too.
victory. I think the pathway we took is the easier pathway, which makes me. I mean, it's fine.
I'm still not confident you're right.
But I'm going to keep testing it out. But it's fine if you want to play the game more traditional and have a harder pathway. But I do think that the easiest pathway forward is not the one that is viticulture.
Because every time you've played Viticulture World, you've gone with mortgaging the farm.
Yes.
This last one was the first time that I went with that strategy.
Yeah.
I've done it with both ways. I think that the biggest crippling aspect is what you said, that we didn't accommodate your strategy, and so your strategy was weaker. We accommodated our strategy, so our
And also,
strategy
you
was
said
stronger.
your strategy has never worked in any other viticulture games.
Yes.
So,
Yes, no, but I've been
He's
very
disappointed that it's finally worked. He's like, this shouldn't work, and it finally does.
I love the idea in base viticulture, because I've been very close to victory, because there is a pathway there in base viticulture as well. But I like the fact that it hasn't worked yet. But I think it's funny to be the one person that sold everything.
Yeah.
And so when I first got this to the table, like we played Greenbrier, I first got to this table, and I immediately started selling the farm, and it just clicked. And then I dove in again, and now we dove in again. And so far, the easiest progression forward across every strategy I've seen people try has been sell the farm.
Yeah, and I think that what you said about Ares Expedition is on point, because I was wondering if that was going to come up, because both Ares Expedition and Viticulture are games that are fantastic experiences, that when I heard they're becoming cooperative games, the first question I had for both of those was, who asked for that? Like, what? I mean, I love cooperative experiences, I love them, but like, I mean, why do you need to take a good, solid, competitive game and make it cooperative? And in the case of Ares Expedition, because of the world falling apart around you,
everyone asked for it.
It feels amazing. Like, I just want them to expand that to regular Terraforming Mars now as well as an option, because that idea of working together as you build your engine and as terrible things happen is significantly more appealing than, let's all get to 25 points, and let's throw in a little metric here as well.
I don't even know what the leaf metric means.
We're good. We're good. That's what it means.
We're good?
We're good.
Oh.
Prestige. General
we
prestige.
work together.
We are.
Grandpa's disappointed.
That's because you mortgaged the farm, Jesse.
So
We're
did you.
good.
Yeah. Anything else
alright.
we don't like? Because I do have positive things. I have
okay.
positive stuff. I did start a lot with negative things. I don't know why, just because I think it's just drifted that way.
Positive-wise, I love the event deck. I like the flavors each world throws in. It changes it up a bit. I like how they're both historically accurate, and...
Well, not the Charterstone one. That's a little made up.
Charterstone's not a real world. I like how they're historically accurate, and they also change the round each round. Some of them are going to act more with the boards. Some of them are going to act more with special powers and abilities that you can then carry through the game. I like that. I like these upgrade tiles that make the actions better. I think if everyone is working cooperatively with the same technique or ways that they're playing, then they can upgrade the locations that are going to be best for that mechanic, and that will really help them going forward.
I like the tiles a lot. I like being able to upgrade fun locations. And I actually like part of the cooperative conversation above board here. There's an interesting...
I had 3 things, by the way. Only 3 things I want to hit on. They just got to cover them all.
There's an interesting puzzle here where...
I don't like conversation and cooperation, so...
you're
in
sitting,
any game, it's not this one.
There's an interesting puzzle here where you're sitting above the board and you're going, hey, if I build this, can you do that? Can I trade with you? Can we swap resources? What's the most efficient way to use things? Well, I don't think I like the application of that puzzle. I do actually enjoy the conversations we have. I don't like the event deck, though.
What?
I like flavor text. I like story. I don't find that these immerse me in any narrative. I like the different powers that they give, but I don't find they immerse me in the story.
They're just enough flavor text to not overtake the story, to the game completely. They are little snippets, which is perfect.
I would have preferred this to not have tried to introduce the world.
You want more post-apocalyptic monsters wandering around.
Yes, I'd rather have monsters wandering. No, I would have rather stay here and give me all Greenbrier stuff, or give me all whatever, Green Meadows, Green Acres. What's it called?
I think it's Green Acres. I could be wrong.
Give me all fantasy stuff, or give me all Italian stuff, or give me all Ma and Pa stories. I don't really want a world narrative. I don't find it immersive, and I find that the fact that the board, the environment, nothing changes other than those cards. I don't find that I believe I'm in South America. I don't find that I believe I'm in Asia.
I don't think they interact as much as they could. I think they could have a lot more gameplay feel to them. I'm comparing it right now to Distilled in my head, where in Distilled, each person kind of has a different region that they have a starting recipe from, and they can specialize in those regions. That feels a lot more like those regions are playing a part in the game. Or even in Ark Nova, regions play a bigger part. This, I didn't feel it played a huge part, but I still enjoyed it, so I was giving it props for something I enjoyed.
I can't disagree with you on the thematic connection of them at all, but I didn't care with that. To me, I like the fact that...
You're not a theme player.
I liked the fact that the decks give you a mechanical twist to the game, so there's a degree and a reason to dive back in each time with different decks and to explore them.
And shuffling them up.
And shuffling them up.
Well, and what I want to do now more than anything...
You want to take a card from every single world and put them all together.
Catastrophe.
That wouldn't work.
Yeah,
where you shuffle all Earth decks together.
From what we've seen so far,
I don't think it would work.
I mean, it'd be chaotic. It'd be fun to watch, honestly.
Yeah.
But
do that for your solo gameplay.
I might do that, but I will do it down the road.
So there were 3 things that I wanted to hit upon. We've hit all of them. One is the event deck. I like the fact that the event deck, each of them gives you a different spin to the game. There's another reason to dive in, another reason to see. Let's see how that twists. Like these personalities, that's something new. That's something that's not necessarily in all the event decks.
And everyone has something new like that.
Yeah, so I like the fact that that gives you a mechanical twist to the game every single time. I agree with you on the thematic lack of connection. The second thing is what Shira said as well, which is the upgrades. I like the upgrading of the location, and similarly, I like the way the upgrades come out do drive different strategies. So you might have one strategy where you're playing heavily into yellow cards, into blue cards, into filling the purple things, into giving tours. Depending on the way those come out, it will definitely drive drastically different strategies. The question at the table is whether you can always mortgage the farm with all those strategies. That's
and you won't always see them all.
Correct. You won't, yeah. And then the third aspect, which Jesse touched upon, is I like the table talk. It's something I liked in Aries Expansion as well. I like working together cooperatively and being like, how can we make this work? And those are the 3 areas that I do like about Viticulture World. Like, they give you different ways to engage with the viticulture experience in ways that are pleasing, despite the whole backlog of complaints we started off with. That's mine.
Yeah, do we want to move on to
final thoughts?
Final ratings.
Sure, let's do into final thoughts. So, final thoughts. Anyone want to go first? Or you like going last, don't you?
Usually.
You want to go first? I can go first.
I'm happy to go first. Are we doing a rating on this?
I don't know what we're saying in our final thoughts.
I don't feel comfortable rating this one. I was wondering about that.
Interesting.
Because I guess I'll start off. I'll start off the bat with this one.
Sure. Not that I volunteered.
I enjoyed my time with Viticulture World. I also don't feel the need to play it again.
Past tense is heavy.
Past tense, yeah. I also don't feel the need to play it again. No, I'm willing to play it again. If somebody wants to play it again, I'll play it again. I like Viticulture World. Well, that's the problem. I don't think it's a 3. This is why I'm not comfortable rating it.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable rating it because, in comparison to Viticulture, I would always pick base Viticulture. I think Viticulture is an amazing experience, and I think Viticulture World takes away some of that experience.
What's your rating of Viticulture?
4.5.
4.5?
4.5. I love Viticulture. There are small complaints. I actually just reviewed on my channel. Well, on our timeline a few days ago, but whatever. Either way, well, actually, it's a little more complicated. In our timeline tomorrow, and your timeline in the past, it's all complicated. But anyways,
it's like a multiverse.
It's the multiverse. So yeah, base viticulture I love. I think it's incredible, and I think that the reason I'm not even sure where I would rate this one is because I have a hard time rating it without comparing it to Viticulture World, without comparing it to Viticulture. Comparing it to Viticulture, it's probably a 3, but I actually think it's higher. I think it's a 3.5 or even arguably a 4. It's just not probably 3.5. It's not viticulture, and it takes away some of the competitive edge that viticulture gives. And while it does add those 3 elements that I do enjoy, the table talk I can get from other games, the upgrades and events are more specific to this. I like what this game is doing, I enjoy what this game is doing, and I don't see a reason for me personally to play this over base viticulture.
Challenge.
Accepted.
I think your critique is fair if this was a standalone game. If the choice was buy Viticulture World or buy Viticulture.
Sure.
That's not the choice.
I mean,
The choice here...
It still is the choice.
No,
you don't have to buy Viticulture World.
Yo, sure. No, the choice here is buy Viticulture to buy Viticulture World.
Yes.
You have to have a pass-through.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that people who like viticulture will necessarily or oftentimes prefer Viticulture World. I think most people are going to fall on the end of Viticulture's a better game. Well, guess what? If you own Viticulture World, you already have
I'm
Viticulture.
not confident of that. I think there's enough of a game here that if you're someone who prefers cooperative, take Professor Meg, every single time she's here, she's like, let's play
She
some
likes
co-op.
cooperative games, yes.
Right? This might be a perfect introduction to viticulture.
I understand. I'm saying that this game is lessened for her because she can't just get it as Viticulture World.
Sure, if
she
you
has
the
to
barrier.
buy Viticulture to do a pass-through to Viticulture World. I think this game will be loved by people who like cooperative games, who want a Euro-style cooperative puzzle. I agree with you.
Yeah.
This is probably a 4 out of 5
Yeah.
if I take it without Viticulture included. But the way that they're producing this, I must take Viticulture with this, which lessens the experience for me, because for me, I will always choose Viticulture over Viticulture World, and lessens the experience for the people that I think will like this the most.
I don't think it... I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it lessens the experience. I think it makes the barrier to entry higher.
That's a meaningful critique.
It isn't. No, it's a meaningful critique.
So that lessens the experience.
I don't know if I would put it that way. I would say if your options are paying like whatever it is, $40 for viticulture, or paying like $65, $70 for Viticulture World. That's what
no way. It's
comes
going to
down
be higher
once you factor in both.
Yeah,
I don't know if the numbers work out to, but that's effectively the question.
I think you're squeezing higher. I think for me, I would never choose this over Viticulture.
Correct.
I also, theoretically, I might choose the solo mood over Viticulture.
Okay.
I'll have to dive in, and I haven't played solo yet, so it's not a fair judgment, but theoretically I might actually choose the solo mode over Viticulture, and I don't think the audiences are quite the same. I think the same people are going to own them, because that's just the nature of this, but I do think that groups are going to fall into one of two camps, and I kind of wish the game was standalone.
I hear you on the standalone part.
Yeah.
I hear you.
I'm in line with both of you.
But we're disagreeing violently.
What are you talking?
No, you guys both prefer Viticulture over Viticulture World. I distilled it to the bottom line. Throughout the entire times I've played this game, I have just thought, I just want to play base viticulture. Like, it brings enough of base viticulture to the table that I'm like, I just want to get into the competitive mode. Like, even now with the cooperative game that we just did, I was like, Jesse did a tad better than me.
So much
And I don't like it. I don't like cooperative games, and we know this about me.
You are not the target audience for this game.
No, I'm not a target audience for
Sounds like none of us are.
I'm not a target audience for cooperative games. I really like competition.
But I am the
games.
target audience. All of us love viticulture. We are the target audience.
No, I disagree. I think, and I could be wrong here, and I
that's my issue.
I'm curious. I am very curious what the general reception of this game will be. I think the obvious target audience for this game is people who enjoy the concept of viticulture, but specifically and intensely prefer cooperative experiences. I think for those people, this is excellent.
Yeah.
I think if you're more in line with Shira, who does not prefer cooperative experiences,
that's not to say that this is a bad game. Like, I do want to temper. Like, I know it could sound like that I was being very negative. I think this is a perfectly great game. Perfectly good game. Perfectly good game. I'm in my mind I'm rating it kind of a 3. It's a game that I'm happy to play if anyone in my game group wants to play it, but I'll always prefer viticulture over it, and viticulture just ranks higher for me. Yeah. With everything echoing everything. You know what I think? I think
I figured out where I am with this game. I'm happy to play this again and again and again until we've gone through all the event decks and shuffled them. Like, if you said, let's play a Viticulture, Viticulture World, I'd be like, sure, I want to play the new event deck.
Something new. That's why I like Catastrophe. Here's the real question, though. The question for all of us.
Yeah.
Within the context that this is not causing me to get rid of viticulture.
Absolutely not.
Why would it, right? I have a fully deluxified viticulture. Are we keeping right next to Viticulture World for the times when Professor Meg are here?
No.
Okay, so I am keeping Viticulture World.
The problem is that my shelf is conjoined with that guy's shelf.
But
I
for
say
context,
no.
For context, while I was sent a review copy of this, and you have not been sent a review copy of this, I was sent a review copy of this with the understanding that both of us would probably end up covering it.
We do that.
I don't plan to get rid of this because I do want to see the other decks.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a chance that in a one-off context that Professor Meg wants to play, it would be nice to have this. And I like Viticulture enough to keep another version.
She doesn't live that close by. You act like she's coming up to visit.
She's moving to Cleveland, Shira.
This is not Professor Meg. This is the hypothetical Professor Meg of someone who
prefers the person who prefers
There's no one in our game groups who prefer I can't think of anyone in our game group who prefers cooperative games.
I don't think I would buy this if I didn't already have one.
Yeah. For me, my bias is nothing to do with that. It's I own games based on what I want to play and based on what my family wants to play. If somebody else wants to play it, they can own it. Yeah. Yeah,
but I like having everything for games. I like Viticulture.
That's reasonable.
That's why I have all the deluxe
I think ultimately we're all in a very similar space with this.
Yeah.
Viticulture World is a good experience. We enjoyed Viticulture World. I believe there will be a target audience for this game. I think the majority... I'm reluctant to say that. I'm reluctant to extrapolate our opinion onto other people in this case.
That's what you're supposed...
No, I think this is a good
That's why people watch your videos.
It's literally... You've got 40,000 people want to see you extrapolate.
No, my opinion I'm being very clear on, but I am not confident that
the wider community will not accept it.
Correct. It might
I think the wider community probably accepts it, or probably receives it higher than we are rating it.
I'm not confident of that either. I'm not confident in either direction. I think this is a good game. I think it may be very well received, or I think it may be that there's a lot of people like us who are like, it's good and it's not viticulture. I don't firmly know. I can just tell you that
I think this will be more divisive, but I think it'll be received very well by a certain faction of people.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, it might come down to that price point aspect. It might come down to the fact that it might be more middle of the line, and then that price point aspect just kind of divides.
That's the biggest problem for me. If you could get this to the shelf, if this was $40 to let me play just this, I would have no problem advocating for it. But since you have to do a buy-through, I think it is smart on a marketing side for him and a sales side for him.
Well, the problem is that you also have to include Tuscany and all the other...
You don't have to Tuscany.
If you want it.
I'm saying that's a whole half of the board.
It's a part of the experience.
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where we are by now. Very, very firmly in the we don't know what others think.
I mean,
we
could keep arguing in circles.
We could do that, honestly.
Why don't you actually stand up and spin in circles? I think that's better.
You spin me right. Yeah, that's basically it. This has been a review of Viticulture World, our experience so far. I'm very curious to see how this one does overall. I think it is a solid game that I don't personally feel the need to play again. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Boarding Co.
I'm a duck.
I'm Shira.
And have a good one.